This technique we're going to show you is something that you can count on and take to the bank to save your plants every time. Well, welcome you guys. Thanks for coming out and joining us today in our new garden here we just planted. And today we're going to be talking about saving all these new transplants we just put in from cold temperatures and frost. So a couple days ago, we just planted our new tomatoes and our new peppers in here at our house here. Have our brand new garden we set up in the backyard. Usually we're planting hundreds and thousands of plants over at the farm. You know, one of the things we noticed over at the greenhouse that everybody is getting really excited. They get spring fever, and we get that too. One of the things that can be a real bummer, a real downer for the spring fever is when you just get all these stuff all planted and it's all beautiful coming out of the greenhouse, and a few days later a big storm, a winter springish storm rolls through that's colder than normal, and all of a sudden we got snow on the ground or we have really low temperatures, and you come out the next morning and maybe you were unaware that it was going to be that low, or maybe you were aware and there still was nothing you could do about it, or you tried to do some things about it. You come out in the morning and all the plants have turned into a big pile of green goo and are all flopped over on the ground and they're all frostbitten and dead. So our goal of today's video is to help you prevent that from happening so that all your hard work doesn't go down the drain and all your dollars you just spent and all of that excitement. By the end of this video, we're hoping that this technique we're going to show you is something that you can count on and take to the bank to save your plants every time. Let's talk just a little bit about what is a signal and when, and what we should be looking for to even know when to start those strategies. So what spurred this video? We'll put up a little picture here, but we just looked at the 7-day forecast, and as you see in the forecast there, it dips down with a storm coming in down to 43 degrees at night. So that's getting pretty cold. Now the truth is that it's not really cold enough to worry about a big frost and snow event. We need to get down a little bit lower than that. So now if it was 36 degrees, 37 degrees, 38 degrees, now I know 32 degrees is freezing, but even 36, 37, 38, that starts making me worry, because down where we're at in the lake bottom, kind of in the lower part of the valley, the cold air kind of pools. Even though the city station where they record the temperature, maybe it's just a little bit higher in elevation over there in the city. Well, yeah, maybe it only does get down to 36 degrees over there, but maybe over here where I'm at in the valley, it does get down to 33, 34, 32 degrees, 31 degrees, and that's where I'm going to have a problem. So if I'm even within 3, 4, 5 degrees of thinking there's danger, my eyes are starting to open, and I'm starting to look at that more closely as that storm comes in, and I'm starting to monitor those temperatures on the 7-day. So when you're looking at that 7-day forecast, we're not so much looking at the high temperature in the day, we're looking more at that nighttime temperature where it dips to its very lowest. So let's say that that forecast told me, hey, it's going to get down to 34 degrees when that cold winter, late spring storm kind of rolls through. So now I'm saying, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to protect the plants because I don't want to risk it. Now the storm that it showed us is a 1-day event. Sometimes these storms can be a 2- and 3-day event. That's something to consider too, the length of time that you're going to need to protect the plants. But here's some of the methods that are commonly used that I've seen people try, and I've even tried over the years. People will try to use buckets to put over the plants like that. You know, one of the real downsides to this method is that, first of all, it doesn't almost give any extra temperature protection from what I've seen. That temperature inside the bucket basically gets down to whatever that temperature is anyway. I mean, maybe we're talking 1 degree, so it's not much. And maybe the biggest problem with buckets is that usually when these winter storms come through in that late spring, they're clashing with hot air. Like it's going to be 85 degrees today, and they're saying it's going to go down into the 40s. So it's a big clashing and a big movement. And it's this time of year where the tornadoes always hit in the Midwest. So what ends up happening is it's a big wind event with these storms rolling through. So these buckets go flying across the field, and your plants are all exposed anyway. Although used a lot and used in desperation, doesn't seem very effective, and I've never experienced it to be. Another thing that people might try to do is maybe they have greenhouse, they're greenhousers, they know how to use plastics and hoop houses and different things, and maybe they'll try to put some plastic over it. Maybe they have a big roll of plastic, they're going to roll over the whole row, and then they'll just throw up some dirt on the sides of it. And that is somewhat effective too. And maybe that'll even give them a few more degrees, and that will be helpful to them. That method has a few problems too, because you're now greenhousing the plants in there, and during the day it might still get really hot and it might start frying those things, and at the same time it's getting really cold at night. So it has its downsides too, and sometimes that plastic can't insulate good enough, and again you have a big wind problem. The other thing about the plastic is that usually most homeowners aren't going to have all this greenhouse material. This is something maybe the big farms might have that they can quickly roll out and have a whole team of people to do that. This is not very efficient or effective for most people. Something that a lot of people do have is just a blanket from inside. So that might be something they'll try to do. And again, a lot like the plastic thing, they're going to come out here and try to blanket those plants. They'll do the best they can. It will help a few degrees. In many cases, I've still seen the plants freeze underneath. But another one they use, I don't have with me, and this is something more that the farms are going to try to do because they have straw available to them. They will try to spread out straw bales over top of all the plants, and that is helpful too, to help insulate them. It's not a bad one, it's just most people aren't going to have access to bales and bales of straw, and it is a lot of effort, potentially a lot of cleanup. Now, you could leave the straw there if you want it, if you're trying to use it for ground cover and keep the weeds down and stuff. Still though, it's a big effort. So I want to tell you a story about how I found out about the method I'm going to show you. In 2012, we had a big cold dip that came, and we had just planted, I don't know, 1,000 plants of tomatoes and peppers. It was going to dip down to, I think, 30 degrees or 29 degrees. And with it, it was really windy. It was like a constant 25, 30 mile an hour wind with gusts of 50. It was just nasty. It was just going to wipe out everything we just did. We went and bought buckets everywhere, and we went and got tarps and stakes, and we did everything we could to cover up the majority of the plants. A lot of the stuff was blowing away. I remember they had just done a whole section of tarp, and some big gusts came up and it blew half the tarps off again, and it was just a nightmare. It just wasn't working. But we did the best we could, and we ran out of material, so we still had more plants to do. And I can't remember, it might have only been just a few plants left, like maybe 10 or 15 plants left that we didn't get to. It was enough that we were going to try anything. We were out there in the dirt, and I just says, well, come along here and let's take this plant, and they were about this size right here, and I said, just come over here and we're just going to bury it. We went like that and we buried them just like that, and that plant only has maybe an inch and a half of dirt over it, and we just did them in little mounds like that because that's all we had available to us. We were out in the middle of the field and we ran out of material, and so all we had available was the material around the plant, which was the dirt itself. We didn't know if that would work or not. We came back the next morning to see what all happened, all the destruction, and sure enough, all the plants under the buckets and all the plants under the tarps that even held, a lot of the tarps had blown off too, they were all melted down, they were all dead, they were all bent over and frostbitten and killed. And then we got to the end of the row where a few of these we had done with the dirt. We checked on those. We came along and we kind of just dusted the dirt off like that real gently, and we found that the plants underneath the dirt, although they didn't love it, and you can kind of see they don't love getting dirt all over their beautiful stems here, but all the plants in the dirt were all alive and well. And so that's kind of how we found out about this method. So in telling this story, I've shown you how to do it already, but I'll just share a little bit more with you. The reason why this method works so good is that this material is already in your garden bed and in your field. So you don't have to go buy anything extra, and it's quick. And that's a big thing too, because if you're a big farmer, you're hundreds, or maybe you even in your garden, you have 50 plants, which is still a lot of plants. This is really quick. Now what makes it work so good, it's 85 degrees today. So that ground is starting to get really heated up. It's kind of like how the lakes get warm in the summertime. The water temperature starts heating up for the summer and it gets warm. And then in the fall, even though it's starting to get cold, it takes a while for that water temperature to cool down in general too. Well, the earth is the same way, where the soil is heating up in the springtime, and that's why everything's starting to sprout easy and grow quicker and grow faster. The momentum is picking up because the soil is warming up too. So when that storm hit May 20th or something, it was an offbeat storm that is not normal. The soil was already quite warm, and the soil temperature might have only got down to 45, 46 degrees that night. And so by wrapping the plants around the soil, it kept them in the mid 40s while all H was breaking loose above them with wind and all sorts of stuff. This method of encasing them and wrapping them in a mound of dirt also protects them from all the wind damage and all the debris blowing around and all the sandblasting of their leaves and their tender stems like they have. And it works really well. I think you will find if you have that problem. So we're going to bury a few plants here together. I'm going to do 3 of them. I'm going to do this bigger tomato, a little bit of a smaller tomato, and we'll do a pepper plant right up there. And we'll just bury this again. And as I'm going to do this now, I'm going to carefully lean it over. You see, I don't want to snap the stem off, so I don't want to bend it down here. I'm kind of just bending it like that, and I'm holding it there. And as I bring the dirt around, it kind of supports it at that level. So we don't want to snap the main stem off carefully, but we do want to bury it. Oh, and another thing that was interesting, I'll share with you real quick, was that when I buried some of those plants, some of the leaves were left sticking out like that. This part was all melted down and totally frosted. And then as I unburied, the other leaves on the very same stem were all healthy and okay. So we just want to make sure we bury all the sweet leaves there. Okay, so that one's ready to go. Now that dirt around there was kind of loose because I had been weeding. Here we watered down some dirt. So I'll just get a little shovel over here. So I'll just loosen up some dirt there. And at the farm, usually we use a bigger shovel than this so we can get a little bit quicker. And we'll have a little team of people with us. Don't take too many, just 2 people. A little team of people can knock out hundreds and hundreds of plants and protect them within just a few hours. And that one didn't need too much dirt because it's not a very big plant. Okay, let's come over here to one of our pepper plants. And we'll just do the same thing. We don't want to bust the stem off, but we'll just carefully curve it like that. And we'll just bring the dirt over and start building a mound here that it can rest encased in the dirt there. And I'm kind of using my hand to hold it up in there so it doesn't break off by accident as I'm doing this. Okay, I'll just bring a little extra dirt over there. Like I said, we only need about an inch over it. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, it's only going to get down to 43, 42 degrees. So we probably aren't going to have a problem anyway. But I'm going to leave these 3 plants encased in dirt for the next 2 days. 2 days is quite a while. Now the plants, they're not going to like this. Some of their leaves might even start turning yellow. Their leaves even might start curling up as if they're going to die soon. But that's the thing, is that they're not going to like it, but they're going to love it later because they're still going to be alive, and they're going to come out of the soil in 2 days and they're going to get right back to work, and they won't be very far off. This trick we're showing you on the tomatoes, but it works for just about anything. We've used it on our watermelon plants that are touchy to temperature. We've used them on pumpkin plants. It can be used on anything that you need to protect. It's an easy, quick cleanup because the dirt just goes back right where it came from. Well, welcome back, guys. It's 2 days later, and it's almost exactly 48 hours from when we filmed the other part of the video here. So we're going to unbury this plant now, and it's a really windy day out here, so hopefully we won't get too much dust in our eyes. So I'm carefully unburying it. And I can feel the leaves, they feel really stiff. And I'm just going to try to bury a little bit deeper. I got some leaves down there. And try to stand it back up a little bit. All right, we don't need all this dirt. But you can see the plant now. It's still very much alive. Still has all of its leaves. It's in a lot better shape than a plant totally collapse and get killed off. So I thought we'd just do a quick comparison now that we pulled this out of the dirt. These are both a variety called Early Girl, which is a very common variety. And you can see the ones out here that are just growing. They got their brand new leaves coming out. This one is going to have to do that too, but it's still alive. The plant has been through some trauma being under the ground there for 2 days straight. So the first thing we're going to do now that we've pulled it out is we're going to get it some water here and try to help it nurse it back to health a little bit. Now I have a water line already installed running the whole length of our garden, but the other plants aren't really in need of water right now, just this one that we pulled out. So I'm going to water this one individually today with just a bucket. And I kind of just built up the dirt around it so that it would kind of hold the water there and let it sink down into the soil rather than running off over into the somewhere else. And just give it a day here and it'll get back to work. Even if your tomato plant does survive low temperatures and frost, usually a large percentage of the plant got hurt. Maybe part of the stem and part of some of the leaves are still alive from a frost event or a cold temperature event. Even with that, the plant could take several weeks to recover, or it may not even recover all the way. It may be very stunted for the rest of the season. So instead of replanting, we just bury it here, and yeah, it'll probably take a day or two for this plant to get back into action, but that's a small price compared to having a stunted plant for the whole season. You know, my dad and my grandpa have always loved to grow the Early Girl variety, and so we have some of those here today. One of my favorite varieties besides the Early Girl is a variety called Lemon Boy, and it's a yellow tomato. And not only do they taste good and they pair well with the red tomatoes, it's really fun pulling them off the plant because it feels like you're pulling gold off the plant. Those are fun. But would love to hear about some of the different varieties that you guys love to grow. You guys can tell us about some of the great ones that you've been growing. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you guys, or will be helpful to you guys in the future should you have some cold temperatures hitting you in the springtime. Thank you guys for watching our videos, and if you found these helpful or enjoyed them, please consider subscribing or liking our videos. That would be very helpful to us. See you on the next one.